In terms of the style, there's no other apartment building like this in Los Angeles.
This modern fireproof building of solid brick construction is 4 stories in height. Although the newest apartments in Hollywood, the Nirvana is recognized as the finest, being unsurpassed in its beauty of architecture and the elegance of its appointments. The large, spacious lobby with its luxurious furnishings from the Orient provides a restful retreat. The massive hand-carved furniture from Japan and delicate silks from China, combined with the artistic decorations, extends an alluring invitation for one to partake of its quietude. The individual apartments are much larger than usual. The living room is large, airy, and light. The dining room is a separate unit in itself. The kitchen is a marvel of convenience, combining compactness with many unusual and outstanding features. The Nirvana apartments embody every conceivable modern feature to make life home-like and enjoyable at all times.
When my brother and I walked this property for the first time in 2005, we knew immediately when we came in through the doors, walked up the stairs and into that entry hallway, that this was something very different from the other apartment buildings that we had walked into, and that this had the potential to be so much more. What we did not know in 2005, and that we only came to know during COVID, around 2020, is that there were hidden treasures throughout the property.
So this building was constructed in 1925. It's designed in a East Asian eclectic style, which combined a lot of different styles from China and Japan and other Asian countries in kind of a very fanciful way. The details are really focused on the facade of the building, the street-facing elevation, as well as this really magnificent lobby.
The first major surprise happened when we were referred to Elisabetta Perfetti because there was a small mural in Unit 100, which is the unit that we're currently sitting in that is no longer a unit. And that mural was in a state of disrepair, and it was our obligation under the Mills Act contract with the city to touch it up, restore it.
When I started here in 2017, only a section of the mural that is on my back was visible. Everything else was covered by layers and layers and layers of paint.
The mural at the time was relatively small, and it was a relatively inexpensive ask, and the only thing that was weird about it is that it wouldn't be seen by anyone since it was in a closed off and private unit. The surprise came when she told us that the mural was not just confined to that small, 4x4 or 6x6 foot space. It was potentially much, much larger.
And so we came back and started to open up a little test area in the wall. And everywhere we opened, there was a little section of the mural. In the United States, it was my very first time here to have such a surprise.
And she discovered not only that the mural was larger than we originally saw, but that it was in most areas relatively intact.
We found a book in the library of USC that had images of the building from before. Even though they were black and white, we could see that the mural was going all around, like not only the walls, but also the ceiling.
It requires a lot of patience, focus. It consists of using a surgical scalpel and literally chip bit by bit all the layers of paint, kind of like an archaeological excavation. Obviously, when everything was uncovered here in the lobby, we were just astonished by the finding.
So the building was designed by a guy named Erdely, who had recently come from Hungary. He did this for Mr. and Mrs. George Krause. Apparently she was very involved with the design and had a lot of ideas of what the design should be.
But we still don't know, and I don't think we're ever gonna find out who the artist of the mural was.
You know, the Asian revival style, it was not super common. We have few examples in LA. So we're not just talking about China. Here's Japan, China, but also Art Deco. So we had to study the style before, to study the palette in use in the 20s. We also had to do something very neat, which was to recreate by creating mold and then pouring all the relief that you see here. They were casted from one original piece. That one is the original, the gold phoenix.
They slowly began unearthing and what was there and studying the photographs and recreating it, and they have just done such a magnificent job.
The scope of work, it just kept increasing as we kept going on.
We started to think, is it possible maybe that the lobby was not the only area that was decorated in this building? So we tested the hallway and the entrance, and we found evidence of decoration there too. And then we came back again to do the hallway and the entrance.
I remember like just the first moment that I laid my eyes on like the facade and the dragons, I was like, oh my God, this is it, man. There is so much craft and there's so much meticulous hard work into every little corner. And literally you can't find anything like that in the modern day like residencies.
It turns out that the building wasn't just an interesting architectural gem. It also was a very specific kind of apartment building called an apartment-hotel. The apartment-hotel bridged a gap between the need for long-term tenement or low-income housing, which the apartment houses generally provided, and the high-end but short-term stay hotel services that were being provided around the city. The apartment-hotel came and said, you want to stay for a day? Fine. You want to stay for a week? Fine. You want to stay for 10 years? Fine. And the way they did that is by providing larger living spaces than traditional hotels, but with more amenities than you would find in your traditional apartment house. And one of those additional amenities was a lobby and eating area. This unit was a lobby. It was not Unit 100. It was an area for the guests of the hotel part and the residents of the apartment part to meet and eat together. And people don't realize this, but this apartment hotel was actually an opportunity to equalize our demographics. Most of the time, there was a very sexist culture 100 years ago, and the expectation of most women was to be providing food to the men. By providing food to everyone in common areas such as lobbies and dining areas, it became socially acceptable for women to be served as opposed to serving. And so this apartment hotel was a critical institution in progressively equalizing the relationship between men and women in our country. And there are very few of these apartment hotels left. So the massive surprise that we realized about the Nirvana was it was actually a historic relic of a very important social instrument of equality from the 1920s. And that infused with us some sort of unusual obligation that we don't really feel as apartment managers all the time. Now we find ourselves as custodians of an important historic monument because it is one of very few remaining apartment hotels that served a very interesting and important social purpose.
So this is one of the most amazing projects as far as, you know, really this building was completely transformed.
It always felt to me like living in a museum. Imagine if you're living in a museum and you're an artist, you will always feel like there's a standard of like art that I have to live up to. I can't like just make mediocre art here. Like the art that surrounds me is so next level and it's so historic. So whatever I do has to live up to that legacy and it has to live up to this structure that I'm in, the space that I'm in. I have to honor that energy.
We don't know for sure, but a lot of people believe that Sid Grauman looked at the Nirvana and got inspired for his design for the Chinese theater.
Now, to me, the Nirvana is really a jewel in the crown of Hollywood.
If the Nirvana in 100 years from today is still the Nirvana, preserved as an apartment hotel, providing that kind of flexible stay and experience and artistic inspiration, if Nirvana is still that in 100 years, I'll be looking down very proud.